This is Unpivot, the show for Excel and Power BI fans and anyone who likes chatting about data. I'm Win Hopkins.
I'm Giles Mail.
I'm Mark Proctor.
I'm Sue Bays, still fourth.
The gang is back. The gang is back.
Win's back. Thank God. Thank God Win's back.
I think Mark's aged.
Yeah, I mean,
I've aged.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely aged.
Didn't you have hair before, Giles?
Not much. To be fair. If I had any, it would have gone.
Oh, Rick was so fun.
Good.
Rick was too cool. Rick was too prepared. Really put me off. It's outrageous how prepared and cool he was. I like Rick.
Yeah.
We should thank Rick. Thank you, Rick.
That's the way he rolls.
Yeah.
It's weird being a listener, just sort of listening along. I enjoyed it. It was good.
You enjoy it?
Yeah. Everybody did well. I thought, they're getting on away without me. Damn it. In a totally selfish way.
Didn't enjoy it. Too much responsibility. You have to. I found myself suddenly being serious because I was like, oh, we've got to move on to the next section. Do I stop people talking and move on to the next segment? I much prefer just rocking up and jabbering away randomly.
That's my role.
There's a like a sporting analogy, or sort of with rugby and probably every other sport. They talk about that creative outside half player who suddenly made captain, and then his game drops because he's taking on too much responsibility. So you need to just let the man play is the term. So and I think that's you, Giles. Just let the man play.
Yeah, just let him play. I think Rick beat you at your own game, though.
Totally did. But he turned up with a mixer with pre-prepared. Like, who turns up to the first time on a podcast with a mixer with sounds? Not only is he a Power Query whiz.
Yeah, he has that anyway. I think that's just the way he is.
It's how he rolls.
It's good. It's good. So what's news, folks? Anybody got any personal news? Any?
Can I?
News? Yeah. Go.
Is it running?
It is running. I ran Cornish Marathon on Sunday, which is my home marathon, and it was just lovely. So I really enjoyed it. So
did you have a sunny day for it?
It was good.
Was it a sunny day, Sue?
No, it's Cornwall. Cornwall in November. It wasn't raining, but it was cold because we ran from Pensilva, which is right on the moors, up to Jamaica Inn, which is right at the top of Bodmin Moor. So it got very cold right at the top, very hilly, and then flat run down. And then we had pasties at the end with a cup of tea.
Do miss pasties.
I miss
something
pasties.
From being in Australia.
Do you not have pasties at all? Do they not exist?
Not really.
Not the same.
But you have what was like when I was in Sydney, they were talking about these. It's like it's basically like a sausage wrap thing that they were all really excited about, that they had a special name for. I was like, it's just a sausage in a bit of bread. Like, why are you so excited? You Aussies, what do you want about?
Do know. Yeah.
It's not a pasty though, is it, Win?
It's not a pasty.
I miss those. No. Pasties and shreddies.
Yeah.
I've got news.
News, yes. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Giles, sorry, news.
So I've gone Lambda mad. I'm speaking in Vegas for the Excel World Championship Finals, like active cell event, which is the training sessions that happen the days before the main competition. And I've put my name in the last round qualification battle. So you can do that if you're in Vegas in person. And now I've gone Lambda mad because I've decided the only way I'm not going to look stupid is if I can hold my own with Lambdas. So I've got like a database of about 25 Lambdas now that I've built that do all sorts of crazy things. So yeah, I've totally converted. Lambda crazy.
Very good. So have you got loads saved? Have you got your own gist or whatever the hell?
No, I haven't done that yet. So I've just got a workbook at the moment. And then the first thing you do is you copy in a tab to the battle workbook and it will copy across all of your named Lambdas. But I am obsessed. If you want a quick number generator in various sequences, I'm your man. I've got it there. It's all sorted.
I would actually be quite interested to see. Yeah. Sorry, Mark.
So, question for you, Giles. So you've got all these Lambdas, right? But are you going to be the person that turns up with all the gear but no idea? Like you're gonna have all these lambdas. It's gonna start, and you're gonna be like, I got no idea. I haven't practiced anything that actually helps me. I've got my 25 lambdas. If you want a sequence of numbers, I can do it. But actually, the challenge is all about text. You're like, well, I give up.
I've got all the I can reverse the text string. I can reverse the text array. I can split the numbers out in alphabetical order, the letters in alphabetical order. I can put them in order of letters, numbers, characters. I've got it all. Possibly, Mark, but I won't have 25 by the time it gets to the end of the month. I'll have about 100. And what I think I'm doing that nobody else will like in the pro group is because a lot of the pros just have like a naming convention with Lambda with like 2 letters, TL underscore, and that's a Lambda that does a crazy thing. Mine is like a sentence. It's like, this Lambda converts a text into an array and reverses it. Because I forget otherwise.
Have you got a Lambda to search through your Lambdas to find out the one that you need?
No, I need that. There's a tool called OA Robot from Eric Ohm that I'm going to try and get up to speed with, which could basically do that, but I might be pushing myself a little bit too far to try and get up to speed with that as well. But yeah, I'm kind of a Lambda mad person now. You could never do it with financial models really yet, but for battles with 30 minutes, it's a bit of a game changer. Oh, damn it. I used that term already. Game changer.
So early on as well.
Yeah, I know. At least once, I think, Mark. Maybe twice.
You got to wait until at least later in the show until something might actually be a game changer.
Instead of you using something that everyone
willy-nilly. I mean, that's just devalues it. I mean, if everything's a game changer, then nothing changes really.
My game.
Is there a risk that you go in like a bit like an open book exam? You go in with a sort of false sense of security, and you just spend all your time flipping through the pages trying to work out what Lambda you need. And then eventually that sort of time runs out. It's like,
there's a huge risk that I've got this strategy completely wrong. But we'll see. It should be fun.
They've got that with the DP600, which is a fabric engineering course, and you can access Microsoft Learn whilst you're taking the course. But it is exactly that. If you spend too much time looking, you haven't got enough time to answer the questions.
Yeah. And for me, I've got there's a cool new measure called a new sort of measure in DAX in Power BI, which can list automatically and create a table of all your measures in your report. Yeah. It's called info.view.measures. Yeah. And it just populates a table, which you can then actually put in a page on your report so the end user can see all the formulas and how they work.
Nice.
So I like that. And then I watched Miguel Myers, who's in charge of the sort of data visualization piece in Power BI. He just did a video showcase or previewing the roadmap they have for the plan of things to come. And that's quite interesting. Apparently that's getting released in a couple of weeks' time. So it's almost like a clickable Power BI report, but breaking down what their plan is for all the visuals.
Oh, nice.
So built a report, in Power BI, which is quite cool.
That sounds cool. Can I ask a question? So Power BI, have they worked out yet how to standardize the column width in a matrix or table? No,
that was I think that's one of the items in.
I was like, surely they've done this, but I was working on something last night. Surely they've done this already, because there's loads of little hacks to get around it. But it's like, really? I spent
Same
more
thing as
time fiddling with that than many other things.
Collapsible columns, like in pivot tables, you could have year and month, and you've got a little plus, and you can expand out the years. Yeah. Well, they can't do that in Power BI in a matrix. Again, something else that's on that sort of roadmap. There's lots of little things like that. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Also judged a dashboarding competition last week. Where 5 people a bunch of people entered, and they were down to 5 people, and they all had to present in front of 5 judges and 40 odd other people and a live stream. And it's gutsy. Right? I'm just impressed by everybody who entered, just full marks for total guts to just get criticized essentially. And there were a range, all good, but range of sort of styles and techniques that people used. But I just went, I'm not sure I'd like to do that myself.
No. I tend to find my reports tend to be quite straightforward. Because usually, for me, it's the data, getting the data right at the beginning, or the modelling. What happened with Mark? Sorry.
Mark, what's going on?
I've got two bits of news. First of all, Win, I feel I might have beaten you because I know I've laid down the gauntlet. So 6 months ago, I think you released a YouTube video about the easiest dependent drop-down list.
I did see. I went
and I'd use Win's method. That was nice. It was nice, but suddenly I had a spark just came from somewhere, and I think my method is possibly better than yours, Win.
Which is this? What was it? I missed the.
So Win's got a video that uses. I think it was Celia that, and like you picked up a method from Celia and it all came together.
Dependent drop-down lists in Excel.
Yeah, so you've got a drop-down list, and then you need a drop-down list that's dependent on that one, and then you need a drop-down list that's dependent on the previous two.
Yeah.
So Wins uses effectively an X lookup with a spill operator, which was nice. It was a nice technique, but I was recording some videos for a course, and so drop and take are both range functions, right? So in a drop down list, you can use a function as long as it returns a range. Now, take and drop are both range functions. So I just thought, can we use take and drop just to select a section of a table? And it worked. I'm like, this is so easy. So I may be the first person to come up with this, or someone else has come up with it and they haven't shared it with anyone. So either way, Win, I think I might have won, but who knows?
I'm totally up for that being assessed by an independent panel of our peers.
Mark, so what you're doing with drop and take, could you not do with choose rows as well?
No, because choose rows returns an array, whilst drop and take returns a range. So that's the key thing, is that you need it to be a range and not an array. So there's functions like index. So index returns a range, X lookup returns a range. So you need a range function in your dependent dropdown, but you can't use, as I found out, because normally you can use like a range function like X lookup or index, and then you can put a colon and then another range function, and that creates like a dynamic range. But you can't put the colon, the range operator, in a dependent dropdown list. Like, it brings up this message box that I've never seen before.
If you've seen what he's got going along, you've got a new toy. Have you got a new toy?
The easiest dependent.
He's laid down a gauntlet here.
I have.
I'm going to ask a really basic question.
Yes.
To me, a range and an array are the same. Bear in mind, I love Excel, but I spend most of my time. So isn't an array just like, like a table of data?
Your range could be like, let's say you've got cells A1 to A4, right? That is your range, A1 to A4. It physically exists, or it doesn't physically exist, but it exists on the worksheet. You can see it. If you have an array, you might be an array of 1, semicolon 2, semicolon 3, semicolon 4. So they are both things that have 4 rows. So A1 to A4, or an array of 4 items, but the range is what exists on the sheet. An array exists in memory. So you can, if you get an array and then you place it onto the sheet, that array then becomes a range. Or if you take a range and then you perform a calculation on it, such as if you had 4 numbers and you multiply by 10, that then takes that range and converts it into an array.
Okay,
so the transition between those two is quite important. And how Excel handles ranges and how it handles arrays is subtly different in various areas. And a drop-down list only accepts, or it can use a range, but it can't use an array.
I see. I understand. Thank you.
So you also just touched on something that I didn't know until last week, because I had to ask Dim a question. The fact that if you've got a semicolon between your items in an array, it's by row, and if it's a comma, it's by column, right? Is that right?
That's right. So
I never knew that.
This is a prime example, Giles, of you've got your 50 lambdas with gear. No idea.
I think Dim was surprised. He was like, "No, it's not wrong, Giles. That's just like that's how it's worked."
Forever.
Didn't know.
And then my second piece of news. Last week, I was on holiday last week. We went to the I went to the Peak District. So I'm from the Fens, which is it's like the Netherlands. It's pretty much flat everywhere. We stayed in this place that had claimed stunning views, beautiful views. They even had photos of this beautiful views. They were so high up, you'd see all these views. It was cloudy for the entire week. We didn't see a single view. We couldn't see more than 100 meters out of the window. We saw absolutely nothing of these beautiful views. So that was a lesson. And also, I'm a basic level runner, Sue, as you know. I can run 5K. But I thought, while I'm away, why not go running?
Yes.
Why not? Well, I tell you, I don't think I've ever run up a hill because it's flat everywhere where I am. It's like everywhere's flat. But running up a hill is not fun.
It's not, is it? It's not.
No.
It is.
And then as I was running, I got up a hill. Well, to start with, I came down the hill and I was like, this is amazing. I love this. But then it came to like this rocky path and this creek, and I was like, this isn't right. And then I had to go up the hill, and I was like, I give up. I did. Yeah. That's not right.
There are techniques, and actually, I was saying I did the Cornish Marathon. That was very, very hilly, but it was pretty hilly. And actually, I find now going up a hill is less painful than going down.
That can be true, yeah. So in Mark, you might have some appreciation on Comrades Ultra that I did this year. The first 40k was basically up, and then the rest of it was undulating, which was not pleasant.
Yeah, but it's different techniques, Mark.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen that.
Did you just say walking is a good one, Giles?
Yeah, it's a really good technique. How do you get up a hill? You walk.
Well, we did Dartmoor Crossing, and it's actually the same. I thought, this is going to be beautiful. It's in the summer. It'll be really lovely. Across Dartmoor, views everywhere. Didn't see anything because it was mist. And this is like 32 miles across Dartmoor, mist, and your head had backache because you had to look everywhere you were going because the ground was so treacherous. And it was treacherous. I fell over loads.
Is that where they filmed American Werewolf in London?
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised. It was bleak. Yeah. It's beautiful generally if it's nice, but it was bleak.
Jeez. Right, there we go.
So enjoy your home ground running, Mark.
Yeah,
nice and flat.
Enjoy it. Flat sounds great.
I like too.
I love running races with people that train on flat. It's just straight past them up the hills.
She says that with such a smile on her face as well. It's something evil about that smile.
You should have seen her when we ran Munich, the smile on her face when she ran past me at about 30k. Oh, yeah, you're right. No, I'm not right.
Don't talk to me.
And he started way in front of me.
Did.
I had an interesting one as well this week where I basically started to have a bit of a rant on Blue Sky. I'm on now rather than any other platform, but started to have a bit of a rant about a feature on Power BI where it doesn't really matter why, but after a while, after doing a rant, then realized that it was my own mistake, that something I'd set up, it was my own fault. Then it got even worse because I looked back at the thing I was complaining about and thought there must be an idea about this on ideas.fabric.com. And my own idea had been implemented 3 years earlier. And I was just like,
That's great.
So I've just been doing this the wrong way for 3 years because they fixed it 3 years ago. So yeah, that was mine.
Yeah, based on your suggestion.
Yeah. So that was nice. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's worked now, fixed now.
Yeah.
Quick response. Shall we do question of the week?
Yeah.
Oh right. God, it's so nice that you just had to think about that.
Do it.
Yeah, cool. Whatever you want. Whatever you want. Let's do question of the week.
We've got shorter jingle because there was a high volume of jingles last time, Giles, I got to say.
What's that?
There's a lot, wasn't there?
Filter content ratio was we're going to try and even it out this week. All right, here we go. Hold on. Let me get this working. I haven't clicked the button for a while.
It's the question, it's the question, it's the question of the week. It's the question, it's the question, it's the question of the week.
All right. Question of the week. What feature would you like to see added to Excel or Power BI, or both? Have we had a think about this?
Yes.
No.
Now, this sort of this sort of spills on from when Christian was on the show, and we did a "What's broken? What would you fix?" So there may be a bit of overlap, I think, with some of those things. Anybody want to chime in? Who wants to start the running?
I've got a thing.
Oh, go on, Giles went first.
I've got a thing only because I'm doing all the Lambda stuff. I'm finding the name manager area where you actually put the code in immensely frustrating. It'd be really nice if they evolved that a bit now that everybody's putting Lambdas in the name manager, so that you can actually like put multi-line code in and structure it a bit. It just drives me. Sometimes you can't even click on the thing to like edit the code. It drives me nuts that you have to kind of try and copy and paste it into a cell, then edit it, and then put it back in. Obviously, you can use the advanced name formula environment.
Oh.
But yeah, sorry, Wayne, go for it.
No,
you were gonna say
I'm thinking Mark's going to be thinking the same thing as me, I reckon, which is, do you know there's a whole formula editor you can install?
the advanced formula environment.
Yeah.
So I'm all on board with that, but it still would make sense to me to not have to go and install an additional free download, add in. It just seems so limited that you can't even look at the whole code in the name manager source bit.
Yeah, totally agree.
That would be my thing.
I just had images of you typing all these 100 lambdas into the little name manager box.
Yeah, Q, L, square bracket.
Yeah. And then right arrow, and it puts F2 to F12 in there, backspace, and then you press right arrow again, and it stuffs up your.
I've sworn many a time in the last week doing that exact thing. Yep.
Yeah. No, the advanced formula editor is essential, I would say, for
I agree.
Lambda writing and stuff. But yeah, they definitely need to fix the whole formula bar thing.
Yep.
Cool. Mark, what did you have?
I've got three things. So of different types. So across the whole spectrum of Excel, So the first one is on Office scripts. I realise probably none of you care, but in Office scripts, it would be nice to be able to run a Power Automate flow from a script without either a premium license, which you can, if you use there's a what's it called, a trigger, which is if you send a HTTPS request, but that's only if you're on premium. You can do it like a really hacky way, which just doesn't really work. So it'd be nice that in Office scripts, if you could click a button, that would then run your Power Automate flow. That would be nice, wouldn't it? It would also be nice because the whole point of scripts is to be reusable, is that when you create, so if you've got a button that then associates with a script, wouldn't it be great if you could change those buttons could pass across parameters into the scripts? So that means that, because you could do it with VBA, there's a way you could do it with VBA that so you've got your one macro and you've got your button, and then in your button, you effectively, or when you call the macro, you effectively set up parameters that then go into the code. So that would be nice with Office scripts, because then you could make them more reusable. So that's my Office scripts one. My next one is that it would be really nice if you could actually do object-based functions. So this might be going back to the Excel for macro days. I'm not sure, because I didn't use Excel in those kind of days, but there's always an issue around, like, there's various things like chart sizes, the min and the max of an axis that you can't link to a cell. It'd be nice if you could. So imagine if you could create a function, that function then called the document object model and then set a parameter on that document object model. So that means you could change your objects as you go from a formula or a function. So with VBA, you can kind of hack some bits of it, but it's not really supported, and it's a complete hack. But it'd be nice if you could do that. When the Python stuff came out, I got a bit excited because I thought, this might be where they're going, but then they just kept going down the Python route. So it'd be nice if we could do object-based functions to change objects on our worksheet.
When you say objects, other than elements of a chart, what type of thing?
Charts, shapes. You might want to change. You might want to change dynamically options on your data validation list. So anything that you can access in your document object model would then be open to you in terms of changing something. So it would open up anything else that you could want to do from your workbook.
So in your document object model, is that the same as the tabular object model that you have within Power BI that wraps around where basically every single thing within Excel is defined as an object, and therefore you can change the properties of that object?
Yes. Well, so depending on, so if you're using VBA, it's pretty much every element. If you're using Office scripts, it's most elements. But yeah, it's that same kind of principle. Then the third thing I'd like is so Power Pivot and the data model, right? I love Power Pivot, I love the data model, but with Power BI now being there, I can't see that Microsoft are going to spend much time on updating the data model in Excel. Why would they, when they've got a much better solution in Power BI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've also got this data model that doesn't work on a Mac, and I can't see I can't see they're ever going to set it up so that you can create something in Excel online, because again, you've got this whole data flows and all those pieces in Power BI. But wouldn't it be nice if you could create a simple data model purely using tables inside Excel, so you don't have to go into the data model, it's all in the grid, and therefore you can create these relationships and you can join tables together. You'll be able to use standard pivot tables and other things just using tables which are in the grid. I think that would add a huge level of functionality that could work on Mac, PC, and web.
That would be nice.
Well, in theory,
nice.
Python you could use Python to connect to any object.
Oh yeah, but you want to use Python to do it though. Mark's talking about doing it like without coding, surely.
Yeah, I mean, because you can do things with formulas to join things together and to create that in a kind of a formula world. But wouldn't it be, I mean, we've got tables, they are objects that Excel recognizes, so why can't we create some relationships with those? I mean, these aren't fully thought out, right? I just think that would give us something in Excel that means we don't have to go to the data model to do things that are reasonably
I like that. Bring the relationships functionality to the grid.
Yeah, but that was my concept with the Python, is if you can connect to it as a language of Python with each object and create relationships as you do with Power Pivot or using DAX, then the functionality's there, isn't it, to be able to do it? But it's then making it, building that code in so that it can be part of a user interface without having to write the code.
Yes.
There is the ability just to, the old school Power Pivot type stuff where you can build the relationships and things in that menu. You don't necessarily have to go into the Power Pivot, which I always have done that because it's just clearer in my mind than choosing one to many or whatever which way round is it again and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But I guess, having it run without the data model actually there. I'm not sure.
I like that.
Yeah.
But then could you imagine, right? You've got these relationships between these tables, and you could then just use formulas rather than having to go through a pivot table or something else. I don't know what these formulas would look like, but equally,
it
would look like DAX.
Like relate, wouldn't they?
but then you can do all of that on the grid rather than having to go somewhere else in a separate tool and handle all of that.
Yeah.
So let me bring that to you. So most of the time, if you're going to create tables, it's very rare that you have to create, the tables are defined. So if people go into Power Query, it'd be quite nice to build those relationships in Power Query as opposed to in the grid. Because the type of people that are going to be building relationships, you have to have an understanding of one to many, many to one, like you mentioned, Win. So in a way, there has to be some type of help to ensure that you're building it in the correct way. So you could maybe even think about doing it in Power Query, because if you're in Power Query, you've got all of the columns to give you an idea on uniqueness and if they don't match and if you don't have dimensions and you've got a repeating thing in your dimension column, it's not as easy as just dragging and dropping. It is if you've got clean data, but most people's data is not clean, so you need to be able to understand why it won't work if you just want to pull the line across and drop it. That only works if the data's okay.
The problem is that Power Query is not part of your calculation chain, right? So therefore, you don't. So you get your data. So your data would come into Power Query, and then if you built your relationships in there, then if you wanted other values from other cells and other things, that's not part of your. That then wouldn't bring back into Power Query as part of your calculation chain. So therefore, you'd always end up relying on refresh, which makes it partly similar to what Power Pivot does now. But if it's all part of your calculation chain, then you could combine tables with, you could have parameters in cells, and it would all just come through nicely. Microsoft, you're welcome to this idea. I will take a small commission.
I like it. I think you stumbled on something we should open up more in, maybe not for the next half an hour, but I like that.
I just have a slight fear because of building a data model. It's quite specific, so I think there would need to be quite a bit of help to ensure that you're attaching the right thing to the right thing to understand the implications of what it's going to do when you write your calculations. Because if you don't know, then you'll become your
Yeah, why are you being such a negative nanny? Right,
don't crush my dreams.
Because I spend my life in data modeling.
Crashing it being the worst thing ever created.
Sue.
And cleaning data. It's got to be right.
I think it's a
but then there's nothing stopping anybody. This is Excel's issue. There's nothing stopping anybody writing a bad formula, is there? That just refers to the wrong thing or does a VLOOKUP when they want the second item, or or the wrong column, or stuff like that. Came across that last week. Somebody's VLOOKUP was hard coded with a 7 or 8 in there, and they actually wanted column 5 from a few months ago. Hadn't realized
judge them. Instantly judge them anyway if they're using VLOOKUP, don't you?
So old school. What about you, Sue? Have you got?
See, I've been thinking about this quite a lot, and I think so. I spend a lot of time in BI, and consequently, I spend a lot of time in Tableau Editor. So Tableau Editor is like the advanced formula bit for me. It's an external tool you use, and I think actually it depends upon what you're doing. So one of the key things I love about Tableau Editor is I can have multiple screens. So I can have my tables open, I can have many tables open, I can build my measures, I can look at my relationships, I can look at Power Query, all open. Whereas within Power BI, you've only got one screen that you're going from one to another. And I want to be able to check and to see and have all of my screens open. So I'd like to have multiple screens from Power BI, so that if I'm looking at data, I'm looking at my data views, and I've still got my visuals there, and I've got my relationships there, and I've got Power Query, because within Tableau Editor I can look at the Power Query. So if things aren't quite right, I can see without having to open. Although Power Query you can have on different, and I love also the fact that in Tableau Editor I can do many things without it continually refreshing in Power BI, which can cause. And I like being able to duplicate measures and copy and paste and move my measures around and put them in folders. And I like being able to do scripting so that it'll automate everything. So quite a lot of
because not everybody can, in a company they work for, they're not allowed to install Tableau Editor.
Yeah.
So if those things can be built in.
Yeah. I think being able to pull the window out. I just remember the first time I opened Tableau Editor 2, and I could have my tables showing, many tables open as I was building measures, and I was just like, I didn't even realize that I needed this, and now I've got it. I realized quite how valuable it is just to double check. So that's useful. I think the DAX having the DAX query editor in Power BI is a step forward, definitely.
Yeah, that helps.
And Excel, don't tell me what formula, so I had sort codes and I wanted to import them into Power BI, and I told it was text, and it changed it for me. I don't want you to change it. If I tell you I want it as text, I want it as text. Don't try and tell me what you think it should be. No, it caused me no end of problems, huge problems. So
like leading zeros disappearing and other things.
Leading zeros disappeared as well for my account number.
You can turn that off in Excel, you know.
There is a setting nowadays.
There is a setting.
Is it in
current
channel?
Why is it
in current channel? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is it changing?
Yeah. Why is it changing my sort codes randomly? If it had a -77 at the end, it put it at the front. If it had a -82, it kept it there.
Oh, that is weird.
Yes.
That is
weird. Win. Yes. If I tell you it's text, I want it as text. Don't tell me what you think it should be.
How's that getting in? Just copy paste?
Opened as a CSV and then imported in, or brought in as a CSV. Wow. And even though I turned off the change type and everything, it still did it. Yeah. It's very, very annoyed.
Yeah.
And what else wasn't I happy with? Yeah, Power BI. Why am I having to double click on columns? Life is too short for me to double click on columns to try and specify the width.
Just on the little gap.
Yeah,
between
and aging. I don't want to be spending my time doing faff.
Yeah, lots of little things like that.
But there is some fabulous Python code that you can use on the Power BI report function when it comes out.
Says the non-coder.
Non-coder.
I had a really big bit of news that I would like to throw back in very quickly, which was that I'm not using a Mac now. I am. But you guys hit me so hard. I was like, right, I'm buying a new laptop. I'm not doing this anymore. So I'm modeling again on a Windows laptop.
My daughter's.
I think you were saying that in Budapest, and I went, "What is that?"
I did think of you the other day because my daughter's Surface Pro that she had for school broke, and then she wanted a Mac because all her friends had got Macs. So I eventually agreed to get her a Mac as a replacement. But yeah, and then I tried to set some of that up, and I had no idea what I was doing. So it was just like,
I've got a Dell Precision something, so it's quite a powerful machine. And although my Excel is doing some weird stuff at the moment, but my God, is it just night and day trying to use Excel on a laptop, proper laptop. I love it.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Control-Shift-V. It's the way forward.
Control-Shift-V. I still can't remember that. Honestly, it's just not in my muscle memory.
I love it. I use it all the time. All the time now.
I'll do it.
Thank you, Christian. Yeah.
Were there any other ones for you, Sue? Or I'll jump in with a couple.
You jump in with a couple. I think my thought, just to summarize, my thought was it depends at what level you're using Tablet Editor as to the things that you would want in Power BI.
To be built in, yeah.
Go on.
I like the multi-screen ones. So Excel, I don't know, they've done a good job, right? There's lots of things I'd fix. So I was trying to think about what things would be extra. The one that crops up a lot for me, because I spend more time doing Power BI dashboards these days, is if Excel had a drop-down slicer, which would be nice. I just would like that because, there's slicers just take up so much screen space on an Excel little dashboard or report. A little drop-down Excel slicer would be lovely.
That would be really
cool. That, does it? No.
Yeah. And sometimes I go back to building Excel reports, and one of the things I always miss when I'm starting to do stuff is, I can't do it.
Drop-down slicer.
Then Excel and Power BI would be not incremental refresh, but additional only refresh.
Yes,
which is something different. Just an append refresh. So some way of checking what's already there, which I know sounds like incremental refresh, but you can't do that in Excel. But just the ability to go, here's a folder with file names. If the file name's already loaded, don't load that again. Otherwise, just grab on the new one and load that on, and give me some way of just changing one file out or something if I needed to. So that just is what I thought incremental refresh was when it first appeared, and then went, oh no, it's all a bit more complicated than that. So I like that. That would be quite handy for me. And then something that's always nagged me, I don't know whether it fits Excel, Power BI, or probably Access, is a database light. So something simple, which is nice controlled tables. Input, set them up. Probably SharePoint lists does some of this, and I don't use SharePoint lists, so I'm missing the point here. But just something in Excel or in an Excel interface where you can go, right, this is controlled. It's the types are set for the columns and stuff like that. And there's also control over who has access and read write and those sorts of things. But it's just more robust than Excel for people who only need 3 or 4 tables and just want to update them. And it just keeps that sort of thing.
SharePoint lists, SharePoint lists are really good for that. Yeah,
it's just I probably should look into them more. But again, the access levels in terms of user actions and setting them up and all those sorts of things. And again, you can't just run, connecting to them and all those sorts of elements. But those would be a couple of my ones.
I think that's the thing with Excel, because it is so. I was having this conversation with one of my customers. I just said, because it's so powerful and beautiful in the flexibility of what you can do with it. I mean, it's just, the best tool ever. But because you have that beauty of being able to do anything you like, pretty much, you have to be really, really careful when you use it as a data input tool, because it could be any format, any shape, anything. And unless you like you say, you set up the data validation, etc.
And even when you do that, people can paste over the validation breaks. Me and Mark doing our multi sort of row dependent drop-down videos, neither of which are particularly easy. They're just the easiest. Okay. Those sorts of things. It's just, there seems to be a big market for it. People would pay $5-10 a month if they could just have a nice, simple, safe, environment that doesn't involve a lot of coding or setup.
SharePoint lists, I think, probably is the way to go. But it is that Excel is such a powerful tool that in the hands of people that know a little, it can be very dangerous with what's used.
Can I add one feature onto that kind of adds onto wins, is that in Excel, it would be really nice if you can have row level security, so that you can have one workbook that you can share with lots of people and they only get to see their own data. That would be great. I'm going to use this term and I mean it. That would be a game changer.
It would actually. I agree. Yeah.
Totally. And sheet level security within an Excel workbook. Because the number of things I've had to do in the past with VBA to stop people unhiding, and nothing's really that secure. As soon as somebody's got access to the workbook, even very hidden sheets can be accessed. So it's just like something that really does lock it down in a much better way. Based on user access. But again, that just eats into something else that Microsoft Power BI has got a competitive advantage on.
That's what I was going to say. Like, with my quite basic level of understanding of Power BI now, that seems to be one of the biggest pluses in Power BI's favor, that you can do all that role level security and links to all the kind of it's fantastic.
And I was going to say that, but you can filter it through if it's coming from a data source, but in BI, but you don't necessarily want that with an Excel, do you? You just want to be able to.
And there's nothing actually, you can't really lock down Power Query either. So people can go and change the parameter. If you're filtering for a certain thing, for certain people can go in and just change the Power Query code if they know what they're doing.
It'd be quite nice if you had like a sheet, an admin sheet, which had the user and their email address or something. And then that would then define who had access to which sheet when you shared it. so you could share it with someone, and then it could look at that admin and say, well, they've only got access to this sheet and that sheet, and then
that'd be brilliant.
Yeah,
there you go,
agreed.
Microsoft, no charge.
God, we've come up with some absolute bangers this episode.
There were a few in from the general listening community. Hello to folks who are listening.
Hello.
There was what have we got? I'm just having a quick scan through. Neville said a lightweight SQL editor.
Yeah.
Shaheen said refreshing in web, Excel for web. So I think Power Query refresh and stuff, which would be good. I think that'll come eventually.
Yeah.
Never use it.
Be good. Excel for web.
Never use. I've never thought to use it. I don't know. I don't know whether the three of you do. Really.
And I love the shortcut Control-Alt-T, so I can define tables in Excel on the web. That was my one thing that I didn't like. Control-Alt-T.
Very good. Or Control-L. Celia said, deleting queries directly on the go. I should have read these before I started reading them out. Too many uses of the word query, Celia. I'm going to skip yours.
Black mark on Celia.
Oh, Celia, how hard to be.
Sorry, Celia. Mark's just said his method's better than ours, Celia, at dependent dropdown. So you've been slammed twice in this episode. So Tanya said background refresh disabled by default. Oh, so that's the one when you want to do refresh your table and your pivot table at the same time.
Yep.
If you're using Power Query to load it, you can disable background refresh on the pivot table. And then that means that both update rather than having to do 2 refreshes.
Okay.
I think that's that one.
Yep.
So there's
I don't know whether I would do that one, but
but anything else from anybody? I wanted third-party stuff.
Yes.
Sue. So I'd like Measure Killer
Yes.
functionality built into Power BI. So
yeah.
List, just show me, highlight, color code, whatever, all the columns and measures that aren't used in this report.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can just,
nice.
help. See Power BI report and Python in the new semantic link labs. You're going to be able to do all sorts of things like that. But it is then involving Python and stuff. But yeah, just show me if it's not used, because
Yeah, it will be good. Okay, excellent. We've totally overrun, and we're about to get onto the main topic. Brilliant.
Excellent.
Only 48 minutes.
Are we on a hard finish today, or people
very soft? Very soft.
Excellent. Okay, so running your own business or setting it up, the challenges, etc. Was it you guys sort of run your own businesses? You've left the sort of standard salaried world.
Yes.
And you then sort of set up your own organizations. Did you set up, I know Mark and Sue have. Giles, did you set that up, or were you, as co-founder, were you sort of jointly first in together?
Yep. Yeah, I've always done that. So I had my first business, Gaining Momentum Analytics, that was my little limited company to take contracting money.
Okay.
And then Full Stack, I was part of the original group. So yeah, we've got equal shares in it.
So I'm the outsider here because I just signed up as an employee to Access Analytic, and then sort of just chipped away and hung around long enough until I became a director there. So I didn't take the big gamble like you guys. But our company's independent consultants, so I've got a few thoughts on this topic. But who wants to kick off in terms of sort of, I guess maybe why did you set up your own company? Why did you set out on your own, and then sort of what was involved, or how did it differ, or whatever?
I can go.
Mark, go.
So I originally set up Excel off the grid so I was made redundant from a business that I've been in for 7 or 8 years. So my entire team was made redundant at that time. I was like, actually, turns out maybe I'm not as secure as I thought I was. So I thought, I'll set up a blog. And then hopefully, if I can just get a little bit of money from that'd be nice coming in. And then that gives me an option if the worst happens again. Then fast forward however many years later, I had a job which I wasn't enjoying that much. And one day my wife just said to me, "You're leaving that job and you're going to go and do this other thing full time." So I So I listened to her. So effectively, it was a security blanket side hustle that then turned into my main business. And the thing that I would say that I wasn't prepared for was how difficult it is. Because originally the plan was to be predominantly a consulting business, and then to do some training. Now we're predominantly a training business who does some consulting, because it's actually much harder to get customers than you think it is at the start. Because at the start you have to be prepared to think, you don't really know what you're going to face, and until you actually start, you don't really know. So, there's a book by somebody, I can't remember who it was by, but the title was Ready, Fire, Aim, which is effectively you've just got to go and keep going, and then aim as you go and adjust course. And that's exactly what you have to do, because you just don't. There's so many unknowns that you've just got to be prepared to adjust course as you go. And finding consulting clients was actually, I thought I could just put something up on LinkedIn. Boom, I'm now offering consultant services. And people, literally, I was expecting these DMs to come rushing in. And I'd be turning people away, going, no, I can't help you. When actually, you put something on LinkedIn and you get, 100 likes, but likes don't convert into actually so I think so you have to be prepared to pivot, and it's harder to get customers than you think. So I would say, if you want to take that leap, start trying to get customers before you even take that leap. And in terms of when it starts getting tough, and when you start struggling, just be aware that you can't lose if you don't give up. So you've just got to keep going, and eventually you'll work out a way that works. You've also got to, as people have mentioned in the past about imposter syndrome, you've just got to forget all of that, because otherwise you're so concerned about what do other people think about you, what if you fail, and all those things that therefore you do nothing. And actually I think it was on last time's podcast. Maybe it wasn't. I've heard someone say recently something about whoever said it was bad to fail. We're almost taught that failing's a bad thing, right? Oh, at school you get marked down if you get things wrong. But actually trying something and failing isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just you've learned something along the way. So we need to stop trying to put these things in a negative context, and start thinking, actually, by trying something and failing, you've learned something, you've progressed, you've developed. That should be a win, right? But the society and the pressures that you think other people have cause us to think slightly differently. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I'd agree completely. For me, I've always been very business orientated with IT, and I ended up teaching. So I had a industry job, and then I had children, and I needed to get back to work, and so I retrained as a lecturer, because I couldn't do my previous job with having small children on my own, because it was, you know what it's like with a career, it just wasn't feasible. So I retrained as a lecturer, and I ended up teaching business and computing. And, parts of it I absolutely loved, parts of it I really didn't. And my sons got to an age where they became more independent, and it became more feasible to take that step. But what I did, similar to what Mark said, is it's a long process to actually be able to fund yourself, and it's scary. So I did 20%. I dropped a day's teaching, and I focused on my business, and then I eased into it gradually. So for the past 4.5 years now, I've been full-time supporting myself and running my business, but it takes time. And I remember one of the most frustrating things is you have to spend time networking, building a website, building a portfolio, all of these things, rather than actually doing business. You're setting up and creating your own business. And
so question for you, Sue, was, so what did you think, or what was the bit that you wanted to do then? Why did you want to set up your own company? Did you just enjoy that bit of the work and you just wanted to do more of that stuff?
Yeah, I got frustrated because I was teaching all of this database stuff, and
Right.
and I was just like, I don't want to teach it
something.
and then not use it. I want to play with it. I'm sending all of these. I used to teach 16 plus computer science and information. It's like, it's just changing. I want to go and do that. I don't want to teach it and then the next day I have to teach project management or something. I want to be doing that. They can go home and do that. I want to do that. And I got frustrated because I couldn't. Education moves at a pace which is not the same as industry, and also, I think you have to be careful what you say. But I'm a really, really hard worker, and I'm a bit obsessive, really. And I think that's the other thing. We all say if you want to succeed, I'll be working till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night if it needs to be done. And, if I'm on, Giles and I are the same, remember, you check your emails, you do your work, I'm like that, whether I was employed or not employed. And I thought, well, why? And then you're working with people that don't do that and they don't have the same commitment as you do. So you just, they do what they do. But I just thought it was about time I did that for me. And you then get people, when I was employed, maybe suggesting things that are not quite what you would do. And so it's that ability to actually say, well, I know what I want to do, and I'm prepared to work really, really hard, and believing in yourself and doing it. So, it's that quite a few people have talked about a pivotal no moment when you get, I got turned down for a promotion for someone that was, I won't say.
Enough said.
I'm not doing this. And so, that was probably the catalyst that made me jump. But oh my gosh, it's just so rewarding. I get to work with the best people, but it does take time. So you need to have, you need to be prepared to work really, really hard. If you think you work hard being employed, try running your own business because you can do 80 plus hours a week. Yeah. But there is a difference when it's for yourself. And you need to learn, and it's just so rewarding because you can, you're your own, as much as my customer's my boss, but to get to that point is worth every hour.
Just to give a quick quote, I think that that Sue was talking about there. I heard this quote somewhere, and this is a paraphrase. It was, stress is spending too many hours doing something you don't want to do. Passion is spending too many hours doing something you do want to do. So often you end up in if you work for somebody else, it can cause you stress. But when you work in your own business, often it ends up becoming passion rather than stress. So therefore you end up spending more hours than you ever did before. Yeah. But hopefully you absolutely love those hours rather than spending an enormous amount of time not loving those hours. So I think there's a very different nature to working for somebody else than to working for your own business.
Guess what I've learned? Absolutely, Mark. Guess what I've been learning about this week? Angel share. So I'm working for a whiskey manufacturer. And as part of the whiskey bottling process, casking process, they keep the whiskey in casks for X amount of years. And each time over years, the alcohol content drops a little bit, and it's called the maturation level. But in Ireland, they call it the angel share. How amazing is that?
It evaporates off in some way.
No, it doesn't. The angels have it win. The angels.
Sorry. And Giles, what about you in terms of
I relate to a lot of what Sue and Mark have just said. I've got have I ever told you my free range chicken story about
no.
On this podcast? Well, maybe not on this podcast. So one of my pivotal moments was being passed over for a promotion, and I was at a point where I was really fed up of being passed over for promotions. But I used to work at this company near me in Winchester, and it's all like part of a securitized, place with lots of nice gardens and everything. And I had a window desk. This is a quick story, don't worry. And I used to watch people go to the cafeteria and walk over to this bench that was like 20 meters away from my desk outside, and they'd sit there for 20 minutes and have a sandwich and then go back in. And I was like, I suddenly had an epiphany. I was like, I am literally a human free range chicken. Like, I come into a securitized area that I can walk around a little bit, but then I've got to be back at my desk after my lunch break and sit there and tap away. And I was like, I can't do this. And those things kind of happened in quick succession. And it was all very, for me, it was probably not the most advisable strategy, but it was very impulsive. It was like the next day I handed in my notice after I got rejected for a promotion. Didn't even know I only had a 4-week notice period, had no plan. What worked in my favor was I'd built such complicated spreadsheets at that time that nobody else in the company could run them. So within a week or two of me going, oh God, what have I done? Where's my money going to come from? The company was going, oh God, don't let him go, because no one else can do the thing that he's built. So they had to come back to me and go, hello, what is your day rate, Giles, as a contractor? I was like, very interesting question. Let me have a think about that. So I ended up back at the same desk with the same laptop for about 6 more months, earning 3 times what I was earning the day before as an employee. Like, it literally blew my mind, where I was like, oh my God, this is what people do. So I did a few years as a contractor, which helped financially. And then I just had a bit of a nest egg then to go, all right, I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to build a website. To Mark's point, people are going to flood in. Like, my Gaining Momentum Analytics is such a cool name. You wait until I'm a millionaire. And nobody came at all. I was like, well, okay, I'm going to have to work a bit harder for this. Not a single person came. And then I had to go down the route of, okay, I'm going to have to put myself out there. And I had a lot of imposter syndrome, traveling to London for like USPRIG events and ICAW events, talking about my new modeling business. At one of these events, I met Miles, who's now my business partner. So I joined his consulting firm that he'd been doing for about 10 years. So he'd kind of done and had been doing for 10 years what I wanted to do, which it was he'd built up a really good, solid client base of people that relied on him to build financial models and, financial reporting models. And it went from there. And I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world, but Sue is absolutely right. Like, if you think you work hard as an employee, it's why I'm a little bit annoyed with some of the things I've heard from the new Labour government in the last week, defining people who run a business as not workers. And you're like, all right, you're going to trigger a lot of people saying that, because business owners work very hard. And you always got, and I mean, until you hit a crazy point, you've always got that thing of like, okay, I've actually got to look at my pipeline and make sure that, the pipeline's good, because, you can't just take your foot off the gas and think, I'm done, I've made it. You've always got to be working hard to network and find more potential clients. Yeah. We've got a lot of B2B clients, but they don't just find you unless you're on page 1 of Google. So a lot of hard work. I would never want to be doing anything else. Chatting to people about Excel in full stack or on LinkedIn isn't really work to me. So to me, that's the passion bit Mark was talking about. I will do that all day and night, and I'll be quite happy doing it.
Yeah. The eye-opening bit for me, I think, from joining a consulting firm was that having the skills is one thing, the technical skills, that's sort of like ground level. But then it's all the other stuff on top of it, building the network, the business development, the maintaining that thing. Like you say, the pipeline of work coming in. And if you stop working on that while you're busy, then suddenly you're not busy and there's nothing. So you've got to work on the pipeline while you're busy. That was one eye opener. Like, oh, well, I'm really busy, but I should be making even more effort to contact clients for when I'm not busy.
And how long it takes.
Some clients take 2 years.
9 months. Yeah.
Totally.
They get in touch and they're like, oh, not quite ready yet. And then they come back and it's urgent 2 years down the line. Quoting for work was always like an eye opener as well. And having built my own stuff for 10 years at various companies, for me, I realized how bad I built everything for me, because I could fix all the issues. Right? So I was quick. I could build stuff quick. But then you realize you can't do that for clients, because it has to work for them all the time. Yeah. And if it breaks, well, it's bad for your business. They're not going to be able to fix it. So that you're almost, I'm pretty much at the mode these days that however quick I think I could do something, it's probably double that time to build it properly.
Yeah. Completely.
And then how do you quote, what do you charge? What's your rate?
Yeah.
How do you find
Fixed
that out?
price,
What's the going?
day rate?
Yeah. All those sorts of things. So and then you've got the business running stuff. So which, to be honest, my business partner, Jeff, takes care of most of that, but the admin, the accounts, the legal stuff, proposals, official documentation, all that sort of stuff. And then we get staff on top of that. It's just like, it's a lot, right? For people who just love the tech, we all just want to get hands-on, do the tech. We're all techie people in our company. Everyone's hands-on doing the work, running training as well, but doing, modeling and building. But there's this overhead bit that's the not fun bit.
Yeah,
that takes up a lot.
That's what I've heard Marco and Alberto, and the same with me. I don't employ anyone because I don't want to manage people. I just want I want to do tech. So going back to Mark's point, you get to a point, because I was a lecturer, so I could teach, and the tech, you sort of think, well, which way am I going to go? Am I going to go lecturing? Am I going to go training? Or am I going to go development? And then you have to sort of go with your passion, and also with, there has to be enough scope, career, job-wise, for you to get paid doing that. And I used to teach people Excel, one-to-one, just to start raising cash to bring it in.
Yeah.
So you do whatever at the beginning,
But when you do what I assume all of us have done, which is you bootstrap it, like it's not like you can just go and go, hey, look, somebody give me 100 grand and we'll give you 20% of what might be worth something in the future. You have to dip into areas that in an ideal world you'd have an expert in. So like marketing for us has always just been like, we've done the best we can with marketing, but if you actually could afford to stick a marketing engine across your business, it would probably, do this, but 99% of people can't do that. So you do the best you can in all of those areas. You have to be like BD, sales, marketing, ops, commercial, legal, as Wynne said, all whilst coming across when you're dealing with your clients like you're a duck. What's the phrase? Duck floating on water, whatever. Yeah. So yeah.
I think for us, we've got a business advisor coach type.
Oh, nice.
It just works really well. Just because we're not those sorts of people, right? So, but somebody who's coming at it from how do you grow a business? How do you manage a business? And somebody pushing back and just making you a little bit uncomfortable in terms of pushing you a bit further than you really want to push yourself and stuff like that, and having a sounding board and stuff. That's worked out really well for us, and just getting some good advisors in certain areas. Like you say, you can't afford to buy you can't suddenly have a department of everybody or of experts, but some certain experts in certain areas, and just that network as well. You've got a couple of those sort of specialists in those areas. Works really well.
I think as well, one of the things for me is time. So I've only got a finite amount of time, and the only way I'm going to grow my business or my earnings is by me. So when it comes to having experts to do I hate building websites. I hate it. So, the amount of time it took me to do my first little web, I could earn more than that by working. So that I farm out, because it's much more cost efficient to pay someone to do something when I can earn more. But I could only do that once I'd started to bring the cash in to be able to afford to do that. So you need to start, if you're going to start your own time, is really being very time sensitive as to how you spend your time and the value of your time.
Yeah. So Mark, I'll ask you a question. Do you edit your own videos?
For about 12 months, I didn't. At the moment, I do.
And I edit my own, and it's not a good use of my time, but I quite like doing it. I'm a bit of a control freak, so but it's not a good use of my, like Sue's saying, but still doing it.
No, the thing with videos is that for a long time, videos were just an addition to the blog post. So it was kind of a just get it done and get it out there. So I had a video editor who did a good job, right? He turned videos around. He gave the content that I gave him. He turned it around, all in good time, all good. But then it came to the he then went somewhere else full time. So it was kind of like a case of, well, what am I going to do? And it was a case of, I don't actually know. Like, if I decide to go down the YouTube route, so I create better videos, and that's like a really key kind of source of how hopefully I find customers. But I don't actually know I don't know how to create a really good YouTube video. So it's almost like I've got to go through that before I can then even think about how do I employ somebody? Because what do I give them? What do I give them in terms of content? What do I give them? How do I know what things should be or shouldn't be? So you end up with, you've almost got to be able to do everything to know what kind of standard you want something to be at, and then you can kind of employ somebody who hopefully then brings more to the party than what you gave. But equally, if I don't know what good looks like, I'll just get it done, and I'll just slap out there and job in, which isn't what I want. So there is a case of, you need to understand what you want and how it works first, and then you can start to kind of employ people to do that. But we've got, so in our business, we've got a cash flow model, which at various levels, that then determines, in terms of our next 5 years, for our cash flow model, once we get to this level, it means we can do this. When we get to the next level, we can do that. So a lot of the next few years are planned out, and it's all based on various thresholds and various other things. And we've got a plan. Hopefully, we'll get to this point by that point, and this point by that date. So we've got a growth plan. We know when it's going to happen. Because equally, the last thing you want to do is to say, right, I'm going to take on 5 people. And if I take on 5 people, we'll get so much done. It'll be so quick. But then within a few months, you've got no money. So you have to grow at a sensible pace. And you have to kind of temper your goals and your desires slightly. Kind of, yes, we've got a plan as to when we get there, because you can't do everything on day one. So you have to kind of build up to that and think about what the steps are, or if you want to employ people, when do you employ that video editor? When do you employ that marketing expert? When do you employ somebody to do this and that and these other things? So it's all, you've got to kind of take that as you grow.
Yeah.
I know somebody who runs their own business here, who ramped up, employed quite a lot, 6, 7, 8 staff in the space of 6 months. And then one of the big contracts with a government agency, they were virtually guaranteed, fell through. And all of a sudden it's like, and then you've got that horrible thing of having to let 6 or 7 people go as well. So you've got that sort of potential, it's a risk, right? It's a calculated risks. So like you say, if you have some sort of financial plan in place to work out what you can handle, then lowers the risk of it going horribly wrong if it goes wrong.
Depends what you want as well. Like Miles and I had some really good chats. Well, we always have these chats, but a couple of years ago, quite a pivotal point for us. We're like, look, what do we want? Like, we're not getting any younger. How much pressure do we want to put on the business? Like, it's at a point where we make a living from it, and we're very happy with that. Obviously, we want it to grow, but we always came back to, like, we want to enjoy working in this business. We don't want it to take over and be just like we felt when we had a job. So the growth is always going to be, I'm like Mark, like, we've got targets, and if we do this, we can like afford to do this. But at the same time, like, I want to travel. I want to do things like this and have time to kind of step back a bit and enjoy life before I get really old. Yeah. Really old. Like Miles. He's really old.
You say that, he's younger than me.
All right, so we've gone over, but that's all good. It's a good chat. Any closing thoughts on, or advice for anybody who's on the edge, of thinking of setting up their own business? Is it simple, go for it, or is it go for it but have a plan, or is it who do you talk to, what do you do?
I like Mark's. Don't be afraid to make a mistake, but have a backup. So, as we've all said, you think you go out there and everyone's going to come knocking on your door. They don't. But, do you want to get to the end of your working life and think, I wish I'd done that?
Yeah,
and I think that about life in general. You've only got one. So you've got to make the most of your life, because it's such a precious thing. So if it's been your dream, then make it happen. But I knew if it failed, I could always go back to teaching. So
there's always that. That's so true. That was a Tim Ferriss thing, like negative visualization, I think he called it. What's the real worst that could happen if you tried it and it went wrong? It's never as bad as it's never like a 1 out of 10. It's probably like a 4. And you could always go and find another job. So I think you've got to go for it. You've got to be a little bit careful, like ideally have a backup and a safety net. But you've got to go for it. If you've got that urge within you, you can't get to your deathbed and be like, oh, damn it, I should have tried.
I wish I'd done that. And because you're not as secure as you think you are, like you said, Mark, with being made redundant. If you've got 1 month or a 3 month notice, that's about as secure as you can be.
Yeah, the other
life's too short. Have fun.
The other thing that I would say is that have a purpose that's bigger than just running a business. Because we in our business we keep coming back to why do we exist? Why does Excel to Grid exist? It doesn't exist to give me income. It exists because the purpose of our business is to help people save time with Excel so they can go home on time, spend more time with their kids and more time doing what they love. And that's our focus. And it doesn't matter whether, hopefully we can make this work as a business. If it doesn't, it crashes and burns, and that's the end of it. But if we can make that bit work, we can make a positive change in the world, in people's lives, in families. And that's only because they're the things that when I was in the corporate world, that I struggled with, that I found difficult. And it's kind of like there's some people that I could help. So that's ultimately the goal, is to try and help as many people as we can to save as much time so they can spend more time doing what they want to do rather than sat at their desks fiddling around with their spreadsheets and their formulas when they could be at home with their kids having fun. So that's ultimately what we're about, and that's the focus, rather than if this business doesn't earn me enough money, fair enough. But that's what we're heading for.
Don't use VLOOKUP.
That's
and
correct.
fix the column widths in Power BI.
And that's a lovely point to end on.
Have more time so you can go for a run.
Indeed. All right. Thanks, everybody. Next time, I'm away again. I'm just slacking now.
Again.
But we have a special guest. Giles, do you want to announce the special guest?
It's Dim Early, the legendary LeBron James of Excel. If anybody's in the Excel Pro kind of battle world, you'll know Dim. He's one of the best Excel people you'll ever meet, and he's a lovely guy as well. So looking forwed to that. I'm not in charge. Hang on, this is
you'll
important.
be back in charge, Giles.
No, I'm not doing it. I don't know. I don't want to do it. Mark, I don't want to do it.
No,
I'm not doing it.
Mark, you're doing it.
No, you're number 2. That's the rule.
No, I don't want to.
I'm number 4.
I can't do it. I spent all my energy making about 10 jingles, and then I had to filter them down. And then Rick turned up with a mixer. It was I had to think about what was happening. I want to turn up and just talk.
You want to
Mark,
be number 2 in the lead-in, so that's the responsibility.
So,
Isn't it, Win? Isn't it, Win?
On the podcast version of this, I'm just going to edit. I'm slowly fade out as Giles just moans about how it's not going to be.
Can we say who's going to cover Giles when he's away?
Because Giles is away after that, so we're getting Chandeep is coming in.
Woo!
Mr. Goodley himself.
Chandeep
Chabra. So yes, that'll be good as well. So few guests coming along. Awesome.
Exciting times.
And you're number 2, Giles. So you're in charge of.
Jesus Christ! You know what this means? I'm gonna go even heavier on the jingles then, because that's
all right. Mark's got fader. Mark's got fading right.
Yeah, definitely.
Mark's got admin.
All right, folks. Enjoy the next couple of weeks.
See you next time.
See you in a while.
Bloody hell.